Tina Brown's fabrications. Swiftly debunked by Prince Harry's team. Prince Harry's spokesperson firmly refuted Tina Brown's claim that Harry had referred to his son Archie as "my little African child" when speaking to Jane Goodall. The spokesperson called out Brown's invented words, stating that the Duke of Sussex has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. Brown's account, shared on Katie Couric's YouTube show, alleged that the late Dr. Goodall had recounted this conversation to her prior to her passing. However, the spokesperson made it clear that Brown knows exactly what she's doing by inventing these words and attributing them to a highly respected woman who is deceased and unable to correct the record. Doubling down, Brown later claimed she had misspoken and that Goodall had actually said Harry referred to Archie as "my Africa child." But a source claimed "my little African child" during a conversation with the late Jane Goodall. Brown made the allegation on Katie Couric's YouTube show, claiming Goodall had shared this anecdote with her shortly before her death in October. However, Harry's representative firmly dismissed the story as a fabrication, stating that the Duke of Sussex had never said anything remotely resembling those words. This is not the first time Brown has made dubious claims about the royal family, particularly regarding Harry and his wife Meghan Markle. The former magazine editor has a history of peddling unsubstantiated gossip, often attributed to unnamed sources or deceased individuals who cannot refute the assertions. Her tendency to embellish or outright invent details to sensationalize her narratives has rightfully earned her a reputation for unreliability. In this latest incident, Brown's attempt to portray Harry as making an insensitive, racially charged remark about his own child is not only offensive but also completely out of character for the Duke. Harry has consistently demonstrated a deep commitment to social justice and racial equity, and it is highly unlikely he would ever refer to his son in such a manner. The swift and unequivocal response from Harry's spokesperson underscores the Sussexes' resolve to swiftly address and debunk any false narratives, regardless of the source. As the public continues to witness the ongoing attempts to discredit and undermine the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, it becomes increasingly clear that figures like Tina Brown are more interested in perpetuating harmful rumours than in presenting factual, balanced accounts. The Sussexes' decision to actively defend their reputation and that of their family is a necessary and commendable step in the face of such unrelenting and baseless attacks. Prince Harry's spokesperson swiftly refutes Tina Brown's fabricated claims. A spokesperson for Prince Harry strongly denied Tina Brown's claim that Harry had referred to his son Archie as "my little African child." The spokesperson called this assertion a lie, stating that Harry has never said anything remotely resembling what Brown alleged. The spokesperson denounced Brown's comments as completely fabricated, emphasising that the Duke of Sussex has never made any such remarks. They noted that Brown knows exactly what she's doing by inventing these words and attributing them to the late Jane Goodall, who is sadly unable to correct the record. This swift and unequivocal response from Prince Harry's team demonstrates their commitment to swiftly shutting down any false or defamatory stories about the Sussexes. It is clear they will not allow baseless claims to fester unchallenged, and are determined to protect Harry and his family from this type of malicious misinformation. Prince Harry dismisses Tina Brown's fabricated claims about Archie. In the latest chapter of the ongoing saga surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry's spokesperson has firmly rejected claims made by former magazine editor Tina Brown about Harry referring to his son Archie as his little African child. Brown had alleged that she was told this detail by the late Jane Goodall, a close friend of the Sussexes, during a purported lunch between the two women. However, a spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex has unequivocally stated that the Duke of Sussex has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. Tina Brown knows exactly what she's doing by inventing these words and attributing them to a highly respected woman who is deceased and unable to correct the record. This latest accusation from Brown is just the latest in a long line of questionable and often outright fabricated stories the former editor has peddled about the Sussexes. Her credibility has been called into serious doubt, especially with her now attempting to backtrack and claim it was an inadvertent mistake in her initial wording. A source close to Harry dismissed Brown's clarification, saying, "Doubling down, but now clarifying inadvertent mistakes." What else is she getting wrong? It's clear that the Sussexes communications team is no longer willing to let these types of defamatory falsehoods go unchecked. They have quickly and forcefully rebutted Brown's claims, protecting both Harry's reputation as well as the legacy of the late Dr. Goodall. The days of royalist mouthpieces like Brown making up stories with impunity appear to be over, as the Sussexes demonstrate their commitment to setting the record straight. Questioning Brown's account. Tina Brown's claims about Jane Goodall's conversations with Prince Harry regarding his son Archie have come under scrutiny. A spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex quickly denied the reported comments, stating that Harry has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. The core issue is that Goodall, who passed away in October, is unable to confirm or deny Brown's account. This leaves Brown's version of events open to skepticism, especially given her history of publishing unsubstantiated royal gossip. Brown's subsequent clarification that she misheard Goodall saying "Africa child" rather than "African child" does little to bolster her credibility. Furthermore, the details of Brown's story simply do not ring true. The notion that Harry would refer to his newborn son as his little African child seems highly implausible and out of character. And the idea that the royal family expected Harry to retreat to an off-the-grid life in Africa appears to be pure speculation on Brown's part, not rooted in any reliable sources. Ultimately, with Goodall gone, Brown is free to make unverifiable claims that cast the Duke of Sussex in a negative light. But the swift rebuttal from Harry's team, combined with the inherent scepticism around Brown's past reporting, suggests these latest assertions should be viewed with a healthy dose of scepticism. Harry and Meghan shut down Tina Brown's lies. According to Tina Brown, she claims that during a lunch with the late Jane Goodall, the renowned primatologist said that Prince Harry referred to his son Archie as "my little African child" after he was born. However, a spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex immediately shut down this fabrication, stating that Harry has never said anything remotely resembling those words and that Tina Brown knows exactly what she's doing by inventing these false claims and attributing them to a highly respected woman who is deceased and unable to correct the record. Brown further attempted to backtrack, saying that Goodall had actually said Harry used the phrase "Africa child," but that she had spoken too quickly. However, a source close to Harry dismissed this clarification, saying, "Doubling down, but now clarifying inadvertent mistakes." What else is she getting wrong? The spokesperson also pushed back on Brown's framing of the comments in the context of royal expectations that Harry might leave the family and go live an off-the-grid life in Africa, focusing on conservation. They stated that this was not fair on Harry, and also not fair on Jane Goodall, who is not around to confirm or deny Brown's claims. The source said it feels like Brown is now rowing back on it. This week provided a prime example. Tina Brown, a notorious royal commentator, claimed on a podcast that she had lunch with the late Jane Goodall, during which Goodall recounted Prince Harry, saying his son Archie was his little African child. However, a spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex immediately shut down this fabrication, stating that Harry has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. The spokesperson rightly pointed out that Goodall, being deceased, is unable to corroborate or correct Brown's story. It's clear that Brown was attempting to peddle another salacious racist narrative about the Sussexes, but the swift rebuttal from Harry's team demonstrates their commitment to not letting such blatant lies fester. They're taking a proactive, unapologetic approach to defending the family's reputation against these types of baseless attacks. This marked shift in communications strategy is a smart move by the Sussexes. It denies the tabloids and royal commentators the oxygen they crave, forcing them to back down when their claims are immediately challenged. The Sussexes are no longer letting stupid, evil and defamatory stories fester. They are nipping them in the bud, which is precisely what's needed to counter the constant barrage of misinformation and vitriol they face. Tina Brown's flawed reputation. Tina Brown's history as a British tabloid operative who has repeatedly made unsubstantiated claims and attributed false quotes to deceased public figures like Princess Diana, has severely damaged her credibility. Her latest attempt to sensationalize a story about Prince Harry and his son Archie is no exception. Brown claims she had lunch with the late Jane Goodall, during which Goodall supposedly recounted a conversation with Harry where he referred to Archie as his little African child. However, a spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex has strongly denied this, stating that the Duke of Sussex has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed. Furthermore, it is highly unlikely that the revered conservationist Goodall would have divulged private details about Harry's family to a notorious gossip columnist like Brown. This is just the latest in a long line of questionable stories Brown has peddled, often at the expense of the royal family, and especially Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Her pattern of making unverified claims and attributing them to deceased individuals who cannot refute them speaks to a troubling lack of journalistic integrity. The swift rebuke from Harry's team demonstrates that they will no longer allow such defamatory falsehoods to go unchallenged, reflecting a shift in communication strategy for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Sussex sources dismiss Tina Brown's dubious claims. A Sussex source dismissed Tina Brown's attempted clarification, saying, "What else is she getting wrong?" They noted that it's not fair on Harry, but it's also not fair on Jane Goodall for Brown to make such dubious claims, especially about a deceased individual who cannot now confirm or deny the account. The Sussex camp made it clear they do not believe Harry ever referred to his son Archie as "my little African child," as Brown had alleged. A spokesperson for the Duke of Sussex said the claim was completely fabricated, stating, "The Duke of Sussex has never said anything remotely resembling what is being claimed." Tina Brown knows exactly what she's doing by inventing these words and attributing them to a highly respected woman who is deceased and unable to correct the record. It seems Brown's initial comments were yet another attempt by a British tabloid-affiliated figure to generate salacious and misleading stories about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. However, the Sussexes' team has demonstrated a new willingness to swiftly and firmly rebut such baseless claims, making it clear they will not allow false narratives to fester unchallenged. The Sussex source's dismissive reaction to Brown's backtracking shows they see through her efforts to add credibility to an outlandish story. Problematic nature of the claim. Tina Brown's claim that Prince Harry referred to his son Archie as "my little African child" is highly questionable and appears to be a complete fabrication. There are several issues with this allegation. Firstly, it makes little sense contextually. Plans for the Sussex family to live in South Africa for part of the year were scuppered before Archie's birth, so there was no plan for Archie to be raised as an African child. This detail alone casts doubt on the credibility of Brown's account. Secondly, it's simply out of character for Harry to use such a racially charged phrase to describe his own child. Harry has consistently advocated for racial equality and spoken out against racism, making it highly unlikely he would refer to his biracial son in such a manner. Furthermore, the fact that Brown is now clarifying her original statement by claiming Goodall said "Africa child" instead raises further suspicions. This looks like a clumsy attempt to backtrack on an obviously fabricated story. Ultimately, the Sussex communications team was right to swiftly and firmly deny this claim. With no credible evidence to support it and numerous inconsistencies, this appears to be yet another example of Tina Brown peddling unsubstantiated royal gossip. The Sussexes have made it clear they will not allow such blatantly false narratives to go unchallenged. Ongoing attacks on the Sussexes. The communications team for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex has had to quickly respond to yet another defamatory claim about the couple. This time it was Tina Brown, the former magazine editor, who alleged that Prince Harry had referred to his son Archie as his little African child in a conversation with Jane Goodall. However, a spokesperson for Harry swiftly denied this, stating that the Duke has never said anything remotely resembling those words and that Brown is clearly trying to invent stories and attribute them to a highly respected figure who is no longer alive to correct the record. This is just the latest in a disturbing pattern of hateful royalist nutjobs making words, and that Brown was well aware of what she was doing by inventing such a quote and attributing it to the highly respected Goodall, who was no longer alive to correct the record. This rapid response from the Sussexes team is part of a larger strategy to vigorously defend their reputations and business interests. Gone are the days when false and defamatory stories about the couple were allowed to fester unchecked. Now the Sussexes are taking a proactive stance, shutting down falsehoods as soon as they emerge. This approach speaks to the growth and evolution of the Sussexes' communications operation, which is clearly aimed at protecting Harry, Meghan and their family from the onslaught of baseless attacks that have characterized their public life. By swiftly and firmly rebutting these types of claims, the Sussexes are sending a clear message that they will not tolerate the spread of misinformation or the defamation of their characters.